I gotta wait. How long I gotta wait for a press record?
Go.
Welcome to the shed, where Miss Dream always has a story.
I'm Dream, a black woman with many beautiful interconnecting identities. A few I will name at this moment as we get started on this podcast journey together. A Bostonian, born and raised in the inner city, Dorchester and Roxbury neighborhoods, to a teenage single mother who has my whole heart. An educator, I've been working with youth and children since my teenage years, and formally, I have been teaching almost a decade now. That's wild to think about. An entrepreneur, I am the founder of The Chair, a black and brown centered tech platform dedicated to supporting people on their hair journey, where you can design hair boards, connect to hairstylists, and share hair care tips for a more joyous experience. I have a workable site, my prototype. It took me 2 years to build, and now I'm on this adventure that you're currently on with me. My goal for this podcast is to share stories, black stories, educator stories, entrepreneurship stories, and hair stories. I want you to leave each episode with the opportunity to gain new insight, just a glimpse into my world or the worlds that are featured on my podcasts, a little chuckle during your day or night, possibly a little anger to encourage you to advocate for justice, and hope to continue learning and dreaming. So come in and listen to the beautiful voices in the chair as they share their stories, starting with me.
Where we share stories in the chair.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Kache. Kache, can you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Kache. I'm so very pleased to have the opportunity to talk to you. I was getting ready to introduce myself with some context, but I'm sure we'll get into it. So it'll come up naturally.
I've met Kache through my mom, but the memory I have that's most intense is my mother had fibroid surgery, and I was keeping my mother's schedule to make sure that people came to visit and make sure she was fed and just making sure she was okay from the hospital and through recovery. And one weekend I had to go to Pennsylvania for a wedding, and Kache was here. And my mother did not tell me that she went back to the hospital because I would have turned around to make sure she was okay. But Kache was like, I got her. And we were texting back and forth. I was like, I don't know who this woman is, but I'm so glad she is taking care of my mother. And from then, I've always just had a really, really soft spot for you in my heart and how sweet you were to my mother and taking the time out to chat with me.
Man, that touches me because your mom has taken care of me in many different iterations through the course of our friendship, whether she knows that or not. And so it was a high honor to be able to stand in the gap. We were not playing about you not turning around because you had to do. Your mama was excited for you. I was excited for you. And we had it covered. Had we not, I would have informed you.
Thank you for that. I truly, truly appreciate it. So, Kache, did you always know that you were going to be in the world of community organizing and event planning?
You know, the event planning part, not so much. The world of organizing is the soul that I've just kind of organically grown from. Both of my parents, in their own ways, have been trailblazers, have been deeply tied to the communities that they've been parts of, have done organizing many different ways. From young, I just always really had a vested interest in community, building it, maintaining it, telling the story of it. And that's informed very much both like my formal and informal roles. It informed things that I studied, opportunities I would seek, activities that I wanted to participate in. And then over time, you build up this toolkit, a particular type of skill set that oftentimes people say, oh, you're just so good at, not necessarily recognizing that it's been an intentional journey in a lot of different ways. And anything that folks think I do well in the realm of organizing or planning has definitely been a muscle or part of a muscle that I've grown and that others have helped me to build up. So yeah, I think what I'm doing now is a natural extension of who I am and how I live my life, but then also very much so my very intentional professional journey too.
Do you remember your very first organizing gig or your very first energizing community meeting that you went to?
I do. The community meetings, I can't remember a time not being involved with community meetings, either as an audience member sitting on one of my parents' laps or popping in to grab literature because maybe somebody else couldn't. But my very first job was at 13. This is before rules changed. And I was part of an organization that had a youth peer leadership program. Shout out to Teal and shout out to CEOC in Cambridge. Our work was in the lane of peer educating around health and wellness, STD, STI, pregnancy prevention, peer to peer, right? And so we were always somewhere talking to folks, organizing for youth voice, all sorts of things. And that work, not just for me, I think when I think about everybody that was on that team at that time, shout out to Manny of Everybody Gotta Eat. We had our first job together. Kia Dancy, who's my bestie and who has gone on to do incredible things with marketing and organizing, and just so many on the team. That experience informed a certain level of confidence in being able to name myself as an organizer, name myself as a community practitioner of wellness without some fancy institution having to bestow me with a title.
How so?
We trained because obviously you want to be out here giving folks good information. And so through a lot of self-study, through a lot of the development activities we would do, a lot of the formal trainings we would go to. If you're 13, 14, and I did that job for several years, 13, 14, sitting in a room, Kristen Hendricken, I have to just shout her out. She was our leader and she's still very much engaged in the work of community. If you're doing the work, you want to make sure you have the good information, but you also want to make sure that you have the confidence to not just deliver the information, but then handle anything that comes behind it, right? And so if you're 13, 14, 15 in a room talking about safe habits of healthy relationships, someone may say, well, little girl, what you know about a healthy relationship? And then you have to dig and understand that as humans, we've been having relationships since we entered this realm, since we came on the scene, right? And knowing that your experience is valuable, trusting that you've done your research, and just all of those things. It just from a very young age, it gave me a confidence to have potentially uncomfortable conversations. I'm kind of from a family where, we keep it ultra real with one another. So uncomfortable dialogue has not necessarily ever been something I've shied away from. But it's different when you're doing it in your family groups or with people you're super comfortable with versus roomfuls of strangers or folks that you might approach out in public. And I just always was okay with the pushback, which I think naturally led to how I wound a path through youth development and everything else. Because I think I learned early on that the pushback is never really about me. It's never really super personal. It's often about people seeking understanding. Sometimes people push back just to be contrarians, but it really is in that space. There's a shift that can happen that ends up being for both parties good.
Where we share stories in the chair.
Look, it's my commercial. We will be right back.
It's more than just a bad hair day. It's a journey. Finding the right hairstyle isn't easy, nor is finding the right stylist or the right products. Looking in every corner of the web gets messy, overwhelming, and exhausting. All the ads, the articles, the products, the videos, it shouldn't be this hard, but it is. And now, it isn't. The chair. a black and brown centered platform where you can design hair boards, connect to hairstylists, and share hair care tips for a new, joyful path on your hair journey. Avoid the clutter, save yourself hours, months, and even years of research and poor trial and error. Everything you need and only what you need is in one place. Hair boards made by people like you, for you. Find the right products, the right people, the right answers for you, stress-free. Join the chair community and make every day a great hair day. When you share your pain, you allow others to help you. And when you share your success, you help others get theirs. Lean on the chair. We got you. No stress, no strife. In the chair. The chair. The chair. All right.
Oh, and if you're interested to learn more about my experiences as a Black woman and educator in Guangzhou, China, I wrote my first ebook titled Nowhere and Everywhere, Captured Emotions of a Beautifully Broken Love Story. It is on lulu.com. Take a read and see some beautiful photography of mine. Enjoy the rest of the show.
The chair.
Why focus in the area of youth for the majority of your organizing? Why not adults? Why youth?
I think naturally, I'm trying to remember if I ever made like a conscious decision in the early years to focus on youth, or if it was just a natural extension of a gift that I think I had and stories I wanted to share, information I wanted to pass on that I had been privileged to have poured into me. And so it was like, oh yeah, I have this dope village of adults and caretakers and elders around me who were sowing so much into me, and it's built for the youth lens. I want to share that. I want to share that with my peers. And then you get a little older, and it's like, I want to share that with the young folks right behind me. And it was fun. I have just always really enjoyed young people. Young people have their pulse, have their finger on the pulse of so many different things. And then as I grew and I matured, I became an auntie. I had crossed over the hot sands of very particular life experiences as a grown up. And then I understood that if you focus on the young people, you are also inherently focusing on the adults. Because there's never been a young person I interfaced with that I didn't also have some kind of interaction with the adults in their life. And not always positive, but definitely young people and their adults are connected. And there's a way to do village work. There's a way to do community building with young people taking the lead and being the focus that is also good and great for all those involved, including the adults.
So, can you give me an example or a story of what does that look like when you provide young people with tools so they are leading the conversation or the charge at that time?
Sure. I had a young woman when I was working for a large nonprofit in the area. Deep community roots. The organization had been in that particular location, that particular building for quite some time. The young woman had lived in the neighborhood, grown up in the neighborhood, like just a block or two away from the building. She had parents who utilized the building for their own recreation and wellness. You know, she got to, by the point that our relationship began, she had just entered into 7th grade. And spunky, super smart, a little bit of edge to her. And I think we got along well because I understand a smart mouth. I really do. And I think we found ourselves feeling connected in that way. So through the years, she would go through various things, both awesome and not so awesome. I would have occasion to interact with her parents. And towards the end of our formal relationship, as her being a participant in the program, because she had ultimately aged out of the program, the very end, her pops came in to meet with me in person, and that's not something he had typically done at all. We spoke, but we would, when I would see him in person, it would be very quick at pickup time, right? And he came in and he said, I want to thank you. I felt my daughter's mouth was getting smarter and smarter. She was challenging me on everything. And he said, and I'm realizing it's because she was learning to advocate for herself. And I don't have to necessarily agree with her. And I don't necessarily have to like all of her choices. But I appreciate that she's practicing advocacy for herself. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially how the conversation went.
Mm.
And I thought, well, damn, all right. That's great news to my ears. Flash forward a year or so ago, I ran into her and she was telling me that things had been a little rocky with her relationship with her parents. And, you know, she was sharing some life updates, so on and so forth. And she said, I had a conversation, and I never actually told her dad told me that. She said, I was having a conversation with my dad about advocating for himself.
Mm.
And when I tell you, and it wasn't a long conversation, we didn't talk about her past for very long, but tears just welled up in my eyes. It was just midweek, downtown, just randomly ran into it. And I thought, look at this full circle where she's in a space she knows and she understands it. She's sowing information into her pops that he needs at that time. Not that it's brand new information, not that it's a new nudge, but it was the necessary nudge that was called for. And she was able to draw on her own experiences and a language toolkit and an approach that she had had some practice with to help her person, her adult, right, her parent, do the same for themselves. That's the beauty of wellness work. It always have to be long sessions. It doesn't always have to be super thought out or pre-planned. But if you walk with it, you can call on it when you need it.
Mm. And do you feel like your personal identities are also wrapped up into this teaching of wellness advocacy?
I do. When I think about wellness, I think along the entire spectrum. So I think about physical wellness, mental and emotional wellness. Am I showing up healthy and whole and well to all of my relationships? So this is a whole continue. Am I feeling financially fit? Am I feeling secure? So I just think about it along a whole, all of the things that on any given day at any given moment impact how we show up, not just for others, but for ourselves. And I feel like I've won the day if I've spent the day being myself. If I haven't spent a bunch of time trying to silence any of my weirdness or any of my ways that might land outside the norm or the expected, where if I haven't swallowed my tongue or my words or my thoughts too much, I'll call that a win. I've done no harm. I've soaked in some joy. I've tried to share a little joy. No matter what else the balance of the day has been, I count it as a win. And because that is how I walk through my own experience on this planet,
Mm.
it naturally informs how I do things. I don't always get it right. I'm authentically wrong. I am and unabashedly unashamed of my missteps and my errors because I know that I can grow and flourish from them. So yeah, it definitely informs how I show up in the good way and in the rough way. I can be an overthinker if there's a such thing.
Mm.
If I need to plan something, it's why some of this work is perfectly suited for me. If I need to plan something, I'm even planning for the unplanned time. You understand what I'm saying? Like I'm thinking about the gaps and the crevices and the pauses, what the room feels like, what the air around might smell like at the time. I'm thinking about so many different pieces, and everybody ain't really with that. I have some clients who are like, yeah, just give me the high level readout. And then I have some clients who want to understand all the nuances and details with me, but if that's not how they are naturally inclined, my attention to detail can maybe feel overwhelming to them. And I'm learning along this journey because they're like, whoa. If she thinks this is important, now I feel like I got to understand all the nuances of it and be patched in. And it's like, nope, that's what you got me here for. Yep, shows up in how I move.
So thinking about people who are getting into community organizing and event planning, what advice do you have for them?
Know yourself. Know why this work interests you. Understand which parts of this type of work you derive joy from. Spend some time in deep thought around some of your pain points. Because anytime you're in work, you're working with or in service of people, there's going to be some pain points, yours, theirs, and just the atmosphere around you. Start there, because I think that particularly in this current heavily saturated aesthetic space that folks are in, everything's got to be a photo op. We want the pictures to have a nice shine on them, a nice sheen to them when we post them. We want to button everything up neatly when we're telling the story of the work. Some things get lost or left out of when we're sharing out. And I think oftentimes people think, oh, well, yeah, event planning, community work, that's easy, right? I like people. I like events. It can maybe be tempting to get swept up in the fun of it all and not so much focus on the why of it all. It's cool to just have an event for event's sake, just for gathering's sake, just for joy's sake. But there's even still work in that. And I've seen people burn out because they want to say yes to everything, every opportunity. And really, it's not the right fit for them. So yeah, that would be my first advice. Think about critically who you are, really, what are your joys, what are your pain points, and then go from there.
Well, Kache, I truly appreciate you sitting in the chair and sharing your stories. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to the chair, where Miss Dream always has a story.
Thank you for listening to an episode of The Chair. I, of course, would love your continued support. Let me know what you think of this episode by doing all the things. Subscribe, comment, and come back next week, every week. Enjoy the rest of your beautiful day. Or if you are like me, enjoy that moonlight and that one star under all your city lights. Love you. Talk to you later.
The chair.
How long I gotta wait for a press record?
Go.
We support her. Shit.
Do your...
Welcome to the chair, where Miss Dream always has a story. Where we share